Hey guys, it's Emmanuel, your body code practitioner out here in Utah. I just wanted to do a really quick video in regards to the commentary that we're reading here, the emotion code. So hopefully you're following along, and I'm gonna try to stay as close to doing these videos as time permits. And so I definitely have gotten great feedback from you guys, and hopefully we'll continue this conversation. If anyone has any comments or anything that you want to say, feel free to leave a comment below. And yeah, just look forward to continue doing this. So we're on page 71, Mysteries of the Ancient Energy Healers. So it says here, our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. In 1939, a Russian electrical technician named Simon Kirlian discovered what is known as Kirlian photography. Kirlian photography uses no light as in traditional photography. Instead, it uses pulsed high voltage frequencies to take pictures of the radiating energy fields that surround all living things. The technique is also referred to as gas discharge visualization, or GDV. Since its discovery, Russian scientists have done a significant amount of research using Kirlian photography. They have found out that all things exhibit the characteristics of an energy field, although living objects have a much more vibrant energy field than inanimate objects. Perhaps the most striking Kirlian images are those of leaves that have been cut in half yet still show the complete intact energy fields of the whole leaves. Is it possible that Kirlian images are actually revealing the inner spiritual nature of things? The existence of the human energy field has been a basic tenet of the healing arts for a very long time. The Hindus understood this vital, life-giving force that permeates and gives life to all things to be prana, an understanding going back 5,000 years. The Chinese taught that the energy is called qi, and understood that if the qi is imbalanced in an individual, the result is poor health. Throughout history, as many as 97 diverse and separate cultures had a belief in the human energy field. Trapped emotions distort and block the flow of this energy in our bodies, and the emotion code is one simple way to bring this energy back to a more balanced state. The spirit and the temple. All right, I believe that the human energy field is essentially the spirit. By the way, if you haven't looked up this is a good time to go on Google and check out Kirlian photography and look at the leaf, Kirlian photography leaf. Also, I'm guessing this would also work probably with like sort of an animal that reconnects, or an animal that is able to restore its tail. You know, there's obviously some lizards that can do that. I'm guessing that the energy field would show up as well. But it's interesting. It's a very interesting thing, and it's kind of got this great purplish hue to it, black and purple hue. And so definitely recommend looking at that. So on a side note, definitely look up Kirlian photography, look up leaf. It's really interesting. Anyway, back to the book, 72. The spirit in the temple. I believe the human energy field is essentially the spirit that exists within each of us. I also believe if you could somehow magically pull your spirit out of your body and stand several alongside each other for comparison, the likeness would surprise you. Many of the near-death experiences that have been recorded reveal that people who have died have actually just left their bodies for a time. Sometimes they don't even realize that they have died until they look down and see their physical body lying there as they hover above it. People have experienced this, understand that they are not their physical body. Instead, their body is more like a temple that houses their spirit self. Just a little side note on that. There's a movie called 21 Grams. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but 21 grams is basically the supposed measurement of the human body when it finally releases the spirit. It says that there's a little bit of a weight loss that happens when the spirit leaves the body, 21 grams. It's a really interesting concept. They've done a lot of studies on that. Also, on a side note, what's interesting is these are called NDEs. You know, in my faith, we really look up to NDEs, near-death experiences. I think we have a lot of doctors who look into it. What's really interesting is that a lot of these doctors from my faith, what they do is they log all these different types of religions, or these people who have different religions that have what they call similar near-death experiences, because it's really interesting that it doesn't matter what faith you're in, people see the same sort of thing, you know, whether it's the this tunnel that I believe that you've created before you came here. This tunnel, that's why it looks familiar to you. And so that's how you came here. So sometimes this tunnel will show up and they start going into this light, if they will. And so it's very interesting. So definitely if you're someone who's really interested in that stuff, just look up NDE. There's a lot of books on it, near-death experiences, and they're very, very fascinating, I would say. I once had an experience that I'll never forget because it taught me the truth of this concept. When I was in practice, I regularly saw many patients with difficult and chronic conditions. I was in the habit of saying a short and silent prayer to God for guidance before each treatment. I came to appreciate this divine help on many occasions when my own knowledge proved inadequate. One day, after uttering a silent prayer for help, I turned my attention to the patient lying on the table before me. At that moment, I was given a gift of understanding from above. It was as if I had been blind all my life and suddenly could see with a clear spiritual form of sight. It's impossible for me to fully describe what this was like, but I instantly and clearly perceived that I was standing in the presence of a sacred temple, the temple of the body that belonged to this patient. I was instantly filled with the deepest sense of awe and reverence. This very special and powerful revelation lasted only a few seconds, but it was unforgettable, and it revealed the truth about the body on a much higher level of understanding than I've ever had before. This is really powerful stuff. The spiritual experience changed how I see people. I've always had a lot of love and respect for mankind, but now I realize that the truth of our existence is more profound and sacred than we imagine. We truly are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience here on this earth. How your thoughts affect others. Your thoughts originate from your spirit intelligence and can have a profound effect on those around you. Your thoughts are energy and are continually radiating from your body. The energy of your thoughts and feelings exerts a subtle effect on other people, as well on other forms of life. Whether we realize it or not, we are constantly making contact with others because all energy is continuous and connected. What's really interesting is when Brad was talking about the heart wall, I always found it interesting how he said that 10 to 15 feet, your heart is affecting the brain waves of others. So as we, Tony Robbins says that 85% of communication is body language and 15% is what we say. So 85% where we're giving people sort of like, I'm a confident person, I'm not a confident person. It's like, or if I talk slow, like, yeah, I don't really have high self-esteem, or we're going like, hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. See, by the speed, by the tone, by the posture, affects actually the mental state. So Tony Robbins says that if you change your physical state, it can affect the emotional state. So kind of we can actually control our state of emotions by changing our physiology. That's kind of Tony Robbins. And then on the backside, if we remove trapped emotions and become less reactive, we can affect the physical side. So kind of it's like the top of the glacier helping the bottom helping up the top. Bottom is the subconscious, which is like the heavy, deep iceberg in the water that we can't see, which is where Dr. Brad goes. And then we have Tony Robbins on top. You see, and like you want to affect both. If you're a ship, if you're a ship going towards an iceberg, you want to shave off both. Well, you can have Tony Robbins techniques and Dr. Brad techniques. They'll both help out. NLP plus emotion code, energy healing. Anyway, he just said that, for example, the electromagnetic frequency that it can radiate, 10 to 12 feet. That's what they've measured with a magnetocardiogram. But what's really interesting is that if you really think about it, he says, and he kind of says it in a very subtle voice, he says, but if you know anything about electromagnetic frequency, there's no end to it. So that's why I tell people that when you're thinking of someone or you have thoughts of someone, you may be sending out messages to someone really, really far off. And whether they're in China or in Mexico, it doesn't matter because there is no limit to electromagnetic frequency. It just keeps going. And so I thought that was very interesting, that we need to be very careful what we think about, how we think about someone and things like that. It's we're all connected and we're all affecting everyone. Anyway, back to the book. Thoughts are things. Ancient healers had a profound understanding of the power of thought. In my seminars, I use a simple test to illustrate how thoughts can have a powerful effect on another person's mind and body, even at a distance. I have a volunteer stand at the front of the room with her back to the audience. I perform a quick baseline muscle test to make sure she is testable. By having her say love, and then pressing down gently but firmly on her outstretched arm. This should elicit a strong muscle response, and she should be able to resist my downward pressure without any trouble. Then I have her say hate. Again, I press down on her arm, which now is weakened, making her unable to resist my downward pressure. I instruct the volunteer to keep her eyes closed and her mind clear. I make sure to keep my mind clear as well, so I won't interfere with the demonstration. I then instruct the audience that when I give the thumbs down signal behind the volunteer's back, they are to silently send negative thoughts to the volunteer, such as, I don't like you, or you're not welcome. I tell the audience that when I give the thumbs up signal behind the volunteer's back, they're to think positive thoughts about the volunteer, such as, I love you, or you are wonderful. At my thumbs down signal, the audience begins sending negative thoughts towards the volunteer. I gently push down on her outstretched arm. I remain silent during the demonstration to illustrate to everyone in the audience that it is their thought energy alone that is creating the effect. Without exception, the volunteer's arm is always weak. Then I give the thumbs up signal, and the audience begins sending positive thoughts to the volunteer. By the way, side note, it's a lot to do with like, comedians. I always feel like depending on what thought people are sending to them, it's either giving them energy, so that rush feeling that they get when they go up and say, man, there's nothing like it. It's because they're receiving all this energy from people, and then they're able to kind of reciprocate and give back. That's why, like, when I speak, when I go to like places to speak, I always ask people, hey, can you guys go up to the front? Because I know that if I go up to the front and tell people to sit up and to move, to kind of sit forward, all of a sudden their energy's shifted. There's an actual shift that happens in the room. That's a real thing. And so I tell people, like, if you want to give the most to your speaker, if you want to get the most from them, don't sit back, relax, calm, just like, my secretary will take notes. You don't want to do that. You want to be up front, like kind of like taking notes, just kind of like being very interested. And all of a sudden, if everyone did that, watch the information that comes from the speaker, way more powerful. And anyway, where were we? And my thumbs down signal, okay, then I give the thumbs up signal and the audience begins sending positive thoughts to the volunteer. I press down on her arm again, but instead of being weak, her arm is invariably strong. Remember that during this process, the volunteer is not consciously aware of what signals I'm giving the audience. Not only does she have her back to the audience, but my communication is nonverbal. This test has consistently reliable results during all my years of teaching seminars. It works because we are made of energy, and thoughts are energy too. When thought energy from others pass through your energetic being, there must always be an effect, either positive or negative. In this case, the audience's negative thoughts about the volunteer weaken her demonstrably. Their positive thoughts strengthen her. This fascinating yet simple test has some rather profound implications. Of course, your own thoughts will have the most drastic immediate effect on the state of your own energy field. Shifting your thinking from positive to negative will immediately shift your vibrational energy from positive to negative. Makes sense? This will inevitably produce negative results, the most obvious and immediate of which is generalized weakening of your body. You might imagine how negative thoughts have a weakening effect on your body's organs and tissues, and how continuing in this state might be dangerous to your health and well-being. Your subconscious mind is aware of negative thoughts that might be harming you, whether they are your own thoughts or not. Often your conscious mind, and by the way, speaking of own thoughts or not, I'm going to be making a video on post-hypnotic suggestions, so stay tuned for that. And which that has to do with people that listen to certain musics, play certain video games over and over and over again. You think you're not getting programmed, but to say the least, you are. And there's some negative things, almost like a chip being planted in your head. And it's not your chip, it's someone else's chip. And it's a thought, or it's a song lyric, or it's something in the basically what it is some type of hypnotherapy, but it's not the good therapy, it's the bad therapy. It's more like being hypnotized by a video game, or hypnotized by some lyrics, and then all of a sudden your mind accepts it as its own. Sometimes also it inverses your subconscious. For example, it'll say positive is negative, negative is positive. Being nice to people is bad, killing people is good, stuff like that. It kind of inverses everything, which is very scary. So again, you got to be careful what you show your kids, video games and certain music that they listen to is actually programming them. That's called post-hypnotic suggestion. It's in the body code, and you can release those, and you can ask where they came from, and kind of like, you know, if there's any energy that's fueling it. There could be like they felt very angry one day to listen to a song, and then boom, that resonating anger is enforcing that post-hypnotic suggestion. So you gotta be careful with that. Your subconscious mind is aware of negative thoughts that might be harming you, whether they're your own thoughts or not. Often your conscious mind is slow to detect negative energies if you cannot see or hear proof of them in the form of facial expressions, body language, or verbal communication. This proof is what you've been taught to look for since you were a little child. I think we've all become somewhat desensitized, and so most of us are unable to consciously detect energy that we cannot see. We are bombarded with information from the day we are born about the world is supposed to be like. We are fed perspectives, opinions, prejudices, traditions, theories, facts, doctrines. We hope that what we have learned is based in truth. We go to school to learn the facts about nature, science, and the history of the world. By the time we reach adulthood, our ideas about the world are essentially in place. When new information comes along, it is only natural that our minds are slow to accept and understand things that don't fit with previously learned information. It would be hard to accept if the new information requires us to make some changes in our thinking, especially if it goes against what we've been taught. I'll leave it right there. We're on page 75, the nature of everything. So with that, guys, feel free to comment below any things that stood out to you, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care. And if you're if you're meeting with a body code practitioner, it's great to read the book, The Emotion Code. You can follow along here. If you've never had a session, you can always get a complimentary session down below. You can check the link below. I look forward to continuing reading with you. Hope everyone has an amazing day. Take care. Bye.